You know, all your answers were brilliant, but y'all, I just like to add, I'm here because this food is good, Jason. I'm not a part of this discussion, but I like to. But it ties into my next question of you guys. You know, Jason, you know, what can I say? Look at where we are right now. Look at how we're sitting. Look at what you've done for the community. And these gentlemen, you know, in your respective positions, most people don't think that you would even bat an eye towards an issue like this. What would you guys say to them? You know, the naysayers, the people that would think that you really don't care, you know, about this issue.
As it relates to black men, we all have to continue to remind ourselves that, Jason, you put the socks on the same way that I do. You know, everybody else around here does the same routines and lives. So in a sense, our responsibility is not to push away those folks, but to remind them that, hey, I'm human as well. And your blessings may not be mine. Your challenges may not be mine, but just know that there are some levels of experiences that we've all kind of like crossed through. We just haven't had a discussion about it, to talk about the barriers and the obstacles that we had to overcome to get to where we are to this day. And a lot of that is, again, being vulnerable and sharing that, you know, life is hard, but if you have trusted peers, friends, adults around you, that you can move a lot quicker. And then, yes, at times it may feel lonely, and I'm going to use this out of context a little bit, but it may feel lonely at the top because people assume that you're fine, but really, we're looking for the opportunity to connect and say, hey, let's walk along this journey as well, because I have a challenge that you may have more experience in.
Yeah. I would say, as far when it comes to mental health, and maybe just like you said, people may think they know, okay, that this is what Marcus Trufant is going through, and there's no way that there could be anything, I guess, that has to do with mental health in his life. Yeah, I'm good, I'm at the top, and I'm doing all this, right? But that's not how it goes, man. That's a false reality. That's when you get into the social media thing, right? Everybody wants to post all the cool stuff, all the beautiful stuff that they do, right? But there's a lot of people struggling and going through stuff on the other side of that. So as far for me to be a part of something like this and use my platform to let people know that it's okay to struggle. I know we all want to stunt. I know we all want to shine, and we want to stunt on everybody, right? And let people know. I mean, to show people that we're doing good and we're great and everything's great, right? But that's not real. So there's a lot of people out there struggling, and it's good to talk about it. It's good to put it out there, because you never know what's going to help out that person. I mean, it could be one person, it could be 100 people, but if we're talking about it now and somebody sees this and like, man, okay, I think I can relate to that, man. I might want to go get some help. I might want to get some brothers together. I might want to start talking about this. And that's what it is for me, just using my platform, and being involved in the conversation.
Yeah, I just would add to that part of that is also just the lens of social media, where people do get used to seeing one part of you and they really think they know you. Right? They really think that, okay, this person, like you on
and
the
that's
top
the draw,
of the
right? Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. So that's why, but what I remind people is that at the end of the day, like most things that affect everybody, and most certainly black people, everybody most likely has family members, right? If not even themselves, right? But they got family members. I remember when crack hit, I'm older, right? I remember, 80 said everybody knew somebody that was smoking crack, right? So I just think it's a little naive, honestly, for somebody to look at a Marcus Trufant and assume that just because, the Trufant boys is all NFL and all of that stuff, they don't nobody and they feel like they are unaffected. Right? And I mean, and same with me, right? To think that, that's kind of love, he don't have no problems. No, I mean, I most certainly have my own problems. And then, of course, I got friends and family that are impacted by a variety of things, whether it's physical health, right? We know a lot of people have been, impacted, and most certainly mental health. And the other thing I would say about this, and we all, and I kind of always bring it up when I feel like I need to be reminded, or we're in a conversation like this, is, man, this guy Robin Williams was one of the most funny guys in the world. Like, I mean, we watching Mrs. Doubtfire. You know, how could he got the world in his hands? But he was really one of the saddest people, and he suffered from it. He had a lot of, anguish, mental anguish, and we all know he ended up taking his life, right? But and if somebody like that, what I mean, so it can happen. And so I just think that really, if somebody was to say, oh, well, these people aren't affected, I instantly remind them of Robin Williams, because everybody knows that he's an international superstar, and it's a well-known story. So you don't have to do a lot of talking. You can just say, well, what about Robin Williams, right? And they instantly, well, yeah, that's true, right? So it can happen to anybody, and most certainly everybody's family got people in their family. So that's what I would say to people that assume that guys like us who seemingly are doing their thing are unaffected. Everybody is affected, especially in this community.
I want to personalize it a little bit, because it's I won't say it's easy, but it's one thing for us to kind of say that in a general,
right?
But personalizing it, just for example, I had a situation, and we've all had situations, especially during this last year.
Yeah, true.
We've all had stuff we had to overcome, but I had ended up having a rotator cuff surgery, and that was tough. It was really tough, but during my recovery, after my surgery, I had to. The tear was so bad, I couldn't start. Usually, at Marcus, usually they want you to start physical therapy immediately. Well, my tear was so bad, they didn't want me to start because they wanted to heal, give some time to heal before I started physical therapy. And so, it was finally time for me to go. I started, and long story short, during the time, I didn't know this, but essentially, whatever your body needs, whether it's sugar, whatever your body needs to heal, there was some health issues that started happening with me that I didn't recognize, and I got blindsided by it immediately. And during this time, it's like, one of my deals, and we all got a deal. One of my deals that I have really been trying to overcome in certain moments and times is as much as I'm, at least from the community aspect, in the community and doing this and that, I can be a real recluse. I can really, draw back and find myself by myself. Right. And not reaching out in the moments where I probably need to reach out the most. And I was going through this. I mean, I've been healthy all my life. I ain't never had no health scare, no nothing. And man, I was going through something that I had never been through, and I didn't want to tell nobody.
Right.
And it was, and I still ain't really told nobody. You know what I mean? And you even see other people kind of like communicate. I ain't never been one to share a lot of my personal stuff on social media, but you see, like, man, okay, well, maybe I need to. But it's that's really been a thing for me. You know what I mean? And so when we talk about conversations like this, and we talk about different times that we've had moments like this in years past, and so on and so forth. For me, I don't know what Robin Williams' deal was. I don't know. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, how many people we know don't even have, in our own communities, that have taken their own lives. You know what I mean? We don't know what seed started that train of thought. Like, man, I don't want to be here no more. You know what I mean? Where did it start? And so I was like thinking the other day, okay, well, with this person, when they got sick, did that, you know what I mean? Or with this person, when they went through a relationship, you know what I mean? Their relationship,
Weight gain,
you know what I
weight
mean?
loss, yeah.
All that kind of, we don't know what's the start button for that train. You know, we talked about mind monsters, you know, earlier. What's that seed that starts that train going down that line, you know, where the struggle really, you know, occurs. And I know, you know, for me, one of the things, like I said, personally, one of the things for me is to really overcome, to do what I can to overcome that desire to just, you know what I mean, to pull back and not relate in the moments where I need to relate. And I don't know what it is for each one of us, but I know for me, that's a big deal. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
And maybe not making it so culturally focused, but I mean, we are with black men. You know, at adolescent age, right? Like there just is not a lot of dialogue, right? You're not going to go to your aunt, your uncle, your grandma, your grandpa, and say, "Hey, I need to talk," right? So already there is a push down where you have to kind of hold that in to then not express that, and then obviously you get into the school system and. At one point in time, when you were kind of a teenager, you have to make a decision. Am I going to be in the gang? Am I going to be a student athlete? Or am I going to have to make a decision to just be behind the scenes and no one finds me or sees me? And I think, you know, having this discussion, yes, it's important for adults, but, you know, in the school section, right, like those triggers begin in that elementary, middle, and high school level because there's not a lot of outlets that are out there. And maybe on a personal, you know, bias statement, specifically for black and brown kids, if there is not an adult inside their community, their home, their school that they can relate to, they're never going to be able to get that off their chest. So already they're behind the 8 ball because Miss Johnson, who is white, is going to have a hard discussion to really help them remove their barriers because they don't have that same context to their life experiences. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't have a great heart. There's just a lack of experiences that will help that young person to move forward in their life.
Context.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I would say, Jay, to what you talked about of it just feeling like you had to pull back and just, it comes down to making this mental health thing a normal conversation and bringing this up all the time and not it kind of pushing it over there in the corners and putting it back in the shadows and all that, because that's how we feel. Okay, I'm feeling this way, but I don't want to be seen as weird or I don't want to be seen as that guy. Yeah. So just making it a normal part of the conversation, I think, is the goal, or it should be the goal. I mean, I'm pretty new to the conversation myself, but I think it's just one of those things. I don't know how we get there. I think that's a part of the process, but shoot, if I'm feeling a certain way and I just felt normal, I could go talk to Ervin. I could be like, man, and it would just be a normal thing, but now it still kind of has that feel to it. So.
Just as much as we said we want to normalize people talking, right? The person like yourself, right? Like you know, saying, hey, I'm recluse, you know, I receded from society, from my family, what have you. We also need to talk about normalizing it on the other side, which is what I've been talking about, because, you know, I've been this manager now, right? So I've had to normalize not carrying that bias, right? And so on a personal note, right, like you have to consciously say, okay, well, you know, we're not going to use this against this person. Because that's really what it comes down to for me and a lot of people, I would think, right, is, you know, part of you wanting to retreat is that, you know, when you share something so personal, you're opening yourself up, you really are passing off this currency. That person has got your bag now, your emotional bag. And they could either hold the bag, you know, and put it in the stash, you know, or they can make it rain with your bag. You got issues? You know, they can make it rain with your emotional bag, right? And so that's really what you're saying. I mean, you know, when you open up to somebody, you are in fact taking out this your stash, right? This, you know, whatever you want to call it, your black card, you know what I mean? The duffel bag, and it's full of your emotional, you know, baggage, if you will. Like you said, you was going through, you know, you had these health issues. All of that's in this duffel bag, and you basically saying, "Here, cuz, you know what I mean? Hold this for me." right? And you telling me about it, and I have a choice to say, okay, yeah, I'm a secure the bag, right? If we on some Cali, right? Let me secure the bag and hold that tight for you, and you know that your bag is safe with me over here. Or now every time I see you somewhere, you know, I gotta bring up your stuff, right? Like your shoulder, right? And I'm going in the bag. I'm basically making it rain on you by having to bring up, you know, whatever it is.
Or you avoid me.
Yeah, or I avoid you.
Know what I mean?
So as much as we need, you know, I would say as much as we need a person to come out, you know, and come out of that retreat, if you will, we need the rest of us to kind of normalize securing their emotional bags.
Everybody else got that responsibility.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. We all have to
Yeah.
secure your emotional, like I'm holding that now, right? And the question is, what am I gonna do with it? And we oftentimes, I mean, we raised up to playing, you know, the dozens, you know, capping, whatever. I mean, in fact, after the kids say no cap, that means don't lie though. That means don't lie down. But when I was a kid, capping meant I was talking about you. You know, it was the dozens or whatever. But now no cap means I'm not lying. So the point is though, is that, you know, again, we have to focus on not using that against each other, right? Because and it's a fine line, right? You have to, and that's why you just said relationships matter, because there's certain stuff we all joke about, you know, oh man, you still got them clown shoes, Marcus, right? And you know what I mean? And we didn't talk about each other's shoes and stuff, but then there's certain stuff that he might have trusted me with that I just don't joke about. And he knows, and I need to know, and the community, you know, we all need to know, like, okay, well, that's off limits, right? And sometimes when you have a really good friend, they know that, like they know, okay, yeah, you know, and that's when you'll hear about, or people say, man, he really crossed the line with me, right? Because there were certain things that were just off limits. So that's how I feel about that, man. I'm glad that you bringing it up here today, and I'm not gonna ever joke about it.
Clown shoes or your shoulder?
You're going to secure the bag. You're secure.
I got you in the bag. I'm saying something for the sake of this at this table, but no, on the real, I understand, like, and that's the thing, like, I just, you know, there's a level of tact, and honestly, not to keep going into this generational difference, right, but I think I kind of came from a generation that did have some chill. You know how everybody's like, oh, it's no chill. You know, I'm going to give it to you raw, right? Like, it's not up to me to have a filter for you. It is, right? And I guess that's what I would say is that, you know, for anybody that's really on that, where they believe these memes where they say, you don't need no filter, you do need to have a filter to protect people's emotional bag, right? Because of whatever they're going through at the time. I don't care if you thought it was funny, right? Like, you often hear about that, right? Like, this person might have really went through something and they trusted you with their emotional bag, and just because they might have told it, you know, and you thought it was funny or something.
You thought you're going to get some likes from it.
Yeah, you can't, you know what I mean? Like, something in you should have some tact and some type of filter intact to say, well, wait a minute, that is kind of funny in my mind, but this person's trusting me with that to not laugh right now. So, you know, I could go on about it, but I think that's a real good dichotomy right there.
I want to sprinkle two things though in there. First, black barbers are probably the best psychologists.
Right.
Like, let's be clear.
Yeah.
You sit in the shop, they listen, they provide you with little suggestions and game.
A lot of feedback.
Maybe a little too much, but at least that tells you that they're listening. And within that same space, again, in the black community, right, sometimes we forget that we have to equip them with the appropriate skills though, right? So that then whatever information that they're sharing to that individual in that barber seat, they're actually walking away with tools and suggestions and scenarios. But then as a black community, we often have to compartmentalize situations, right? Because we've seen trauma at such a young age, right? That's also known as adverse childhood experiences, right? ACEs, right? We kind of keep those things in the back of our head, and we don't like saying it, which then eventually translates into being an adult. I don't want to tell people that my shoulders hurt because that might be a sign of weakness, right? Because we've been so used to this holding it in and trying to navigate this space of life without the appropriate skills or dialogue. To let people know that it's okay to talk about it.